Assalamu alaikum students, welcome to your course TEFL, Teaching of English as a Foreign Language. So today we are here for another lecture. Alright, you know that? Okay, good students. So welcome to another morning, a new day, a new date. Alright, and of course now you are near your, you are about to complete your semester, right? Because almost you are near your end term exam. Fine? I hope you are putting efforts for it. Good. And so far you have showed that you people are really taking keen interest in this course, right? And you know its importance. I gave you the importance of this course in the very first lecture and you kept that in mind. And then what you did? You kept on working. Fine, and this is a very good thing. This effort will definitely pay you back once you will complete this course, and you will see. And my dear students, you are lucky that you have this course in 2 semesters. Fine, in the 3rd semester you have TEFL, and also in the 4th semester you have TEFL, and the 4th semester it will be more practical. All right, even whatever things we did so far, they are practical. In fact, we talked about the methods and we followed Larson's book, and really one of the good books on these methods. And Larson, in fact, the way he discussed these methods, they are absolutely wonderful. He took us to different situations, different classes. He showed us different classes, and we saw, in fact, the method, of course, being exploited, being used by the teacher in the class. And then also he gave us the principles on the basis of the observation that we had. Fine. And then also he talked about techniques in the class which the teachers use in different methods. And again, I would say that we started with oldest method, that was GTM, grammar translation method. So those methods are there in your mind. And these days we are talking about, yes, we are exploring skills. Fine, right? We are exploring what? Exploring skills. And you know which skills? Essential skills of language learning. And being teachers, we are trying to know how can we help our students improve their essential skills of foreign language. Is that clear? Because we are students of TEFL, right? So we are learning how to teach English, in fact, as a foreign language. Again, you would say, why it is foreign language? Why? Because we don't have that environment here in our country, right? We don't have context, fine, for speaking this language outside. So that's why we call it foreign language. Similarly, if you do the same, right? If you learn, in fact, the language in an environment where English is a first language, for example, you go to United Kingdom, you go to Canada, and over there you learn English, that would be your second language. That would be your second language there. Is that clear? Because you have environment there. You see, you could go out and you can talk with people in that country. But here in our country, of course, we have the lingua franca is Urdu, lingua franca is other languages. So we don't have exposure to that language, except for those institutes where they force their students to talk in English for a particular time. Otherwise, you see, there is no environment for that. That's why we call it teaching of English as a foreign language. Is that clear? You understand? So let's come to the point. Today we have to start what? Yes, we have to start this lecture on TEFL, and we were talking about skills. And which skill was under discussion? Speaking skills. And of course, which book we are following? Yes, Practical English Language Teaching by David Noonan. And we are exploring skills, right? And last time we started speaking skills. Fine, let's start today's lecture. As per the routine, what to do? First of all, we will review the last lecture. Well, friends, so what did we do in the last lecture? Yes, we talked about speaking. Fine. In our last meeting, in our last session, we in fact talked about speaking skill, right? So speaking is what? Is a productive skill. Again, it's a purposeful and productive skill we talked about. So, and we saw that what is speaking, right? We defined it, that speaking is the productive oral skill, and it consists of what? Producing systematic verbal utterances to convey meaning. That is what we defined speaking. In fact, is a skill, that it is a skill that we produce. Production is there, in fact. And input, before that we talked about listening skill, for example, and we talked about, and we discussed this point many times, that, well, good listeners, of course, yes, they are good speakers. Generally, it is believed that a good listener is a good speaker. Some people have reservations, but generally, if you see that, listening is important for your, which skill, my dear students? Speaking skill. Fine? So, that's we talked about earlier. So, some people feel that, well, speaking in another language is a difficult job. It is not easy job as compared to other skills. You can read English, for example, like talk about English. Most of you may read English, right? You may be able to write English, but when it comes to speaking in that language, you see, if you do a survey, you will find out that people cannot express, they cannot speak in this language. So that's why it's a general perception that it is not easy to communicate in another language. However, you may be able to write and read that language. For example, you see, if you do a research, you might find out you might find more people who could read English, you might find more people who would even write English, but when it comes to speaking, they would be reluctant, they would be hesitant. Yes, people shy, in fact, and that's why, to remove that shyness, they join different language institutes where they try to gain confidence. They put themselves in that environment. So the purpose is to be able to speak that language, and even the people have that knowledge, of course, of that language, but that is in passive form. So to bring that, of course, knowledge into active form, they come to different centers where they gain confidence, and they start talking in that language. So that's why, you see, and why, the people fear, why it creates a problem, because unlike other skills, speaking is a real-time activity. Fine? It goes on. You see, once you start, my dear students, you have to communicate. You cannot stop and wait, let me think what to do. So you don't do that. Right? What you do? Yeah, you are talking and immediate response is required. You have to reply. Fine. You cannot be stopped for a while. You cannot take a long pause, for example, right? What you have to do? Yeah, you have to keep the ball rolling. Fine. And for this, definitely, a lot is required. Fine. You have to do a lot to be able to speak. Fine. And I told you that while speaking, while talking, while negotiating, yeah, both the communicator and the communicant, yes, should be on their toes. Fine. Once the speaker completes his speech, definitely the listener, right? Now the turn taking takes place, and the listener has to agree or disagree, or the listener has to give an argument. Once he completes his argument, now again of course, you see, the ball comes to the speaker's court. So this is what, it's a two-way process. Again, rhetorical theory. Exactly, students. So another purpose, of course, why people have this problem, that when we speak, we have chances. We can edit our script. We can proofread our writing. We can, in fact, you see, we can revise our writing. Whereas in speaking, we don't have that time. So we have very, very limited time to check our thought. Like, you see, a batsman checks his shot sometimes. See, that's why when you speak, you have very, very limited time to think and see. Like it is said that think before you speak. Fine, but even that thinking is very, very limited. So that's why the time constraint is there. So people say that it is not easy to communicate in another language. I hope you understand. Clear? All right. This is what we talked about in our last lecture. Again, we saw the differences between spoken version of language and a written version of the language, and we saw that spoken is auditory. Fine, and it's a temporary, of course, whatever we have said, it goes. Like now, maybe sometime you have your voice recorded, that is fine, that is fine. But at times, you see, when you speak, so it goes, like I told you, that जुबान से निकली हुई बात और कमान से निकला हुआ तीर कभी वापस नहीं आते. So यही बात थी, that's what we're talking about, that my dear students, that it's temporary in fact. You see, once you have said something, it goes, right? So that's why in spoken it is auditory, fine, then it is temporary, and then also prosody, of course, rhythm, intonation, and I call them, you know, what did I call them? Supra-segmental features of language. Again, what is it? Supra-segmental features of language. What are these features, my dear students? Yeah, these stress, fine, intonation, clear? So these pitch of the voice, these what even weak forms and the strong forms, these are supra-segmental features of language. I hope you understand. Good. So again we saw that we don't have time to plan and edit our speech, my dear students. Fine. This I'm talking about, that how this your in fact spoken version is different from written version. Is that clear? And then we talked about that writing, for example, so visual, you can see it, right? Because you pen down your ideas, once you will start writing, you will see it in fact. So that is visual, you can see it, my dear students, fine. And then there is punctuation, writing is permanent. Once you write a message, then of course it becomes a permanent record. You can use it for the future references. Is that clear? Whereas in writing, in speaking, once you have, yes, you say something, it goes. However, if your voice have been recorded by somebody, so that is another way, because now we are in the age of technology, so your voice can easily be recorded. Fine. And then of course, yes, in writing, response can be delayed, and you have unlimited time for the planning, editing and revising. In fact, you have a lot of time. You see, you can plan your writing, you can edit that, you can revise it. I mean, that's why 90% writing is rewriting. Why? Because the writer has enough time. I hope you understand. So these were some of the differences we talked about in our last lecture. Remember that? Good. So dear students, again we saw that in the late 20th century what happened, this language acquisition research made us reconsider our beliefs about how people learn to speak. Is that clear? Because then we talked about, you see that what in the 20th century what happened? Research, of course, research on second language, language acquisition. Of course, the research was done, and that research in fact made us reconsider our old beliefs that how people learn to speak. And several studies were done, and they proved that interaction is a must for speaking a language. If you want to learn a language, you have to interact in that language. So considering this in fact hypothesis, of course, considering this observation, you see, we of course, experts in fact talked about a methodology for teaching, that is CLT, communicative language teaching. And there were two versions of CLT, you all know that. First one, the weak version, learner should teach components of language, but you see, include communicative abilities. That was the weak version of CLT, communicative language teaching. And then, my dear students, we have another strong version of CLT. What is it? Do you know? Yes, since students learn through interacting, of course, since we know that what happens, that students learn through interaction. Is that clear? So therefore, this of course, activities should be based on communication. It means that, of course, what we need to do that, we need to help our students for a successful communication. Through this communication, means should be communication, and obviously the outcome would also be communication. Is that clear? These were the two versions of CLT we talked about. So let's start today. This was just a review of the last lecture. Remember that? Okay, good. So we talked about speaking, fine, and then we differentiated between speaking and writing, and we also talked about other areas. You can have a look on those. Today we are going to start what? Principles for teaching speaking. We are, who are we? TEFL students, right? So these days we are doing what? We are, yes, exploring skills of language. What are 4 skills? You know that? Okay, input skills and output skills. Again, inputs. What are input skills? Yeah, reading and listening. Output skills? Yes, my dear students, speaking and writing. We also call them productive skills. Very good. We call them productive skills, right? What do we call listening and reading? Yes, I told you. What do we call them? Yes, Amir, can you try? Receptive skills. Very good, Amir. Good. Fine. This is what it means that you are doing. You are working on that. Fine. So, receptive and productive. All 4 are essential skills for learning a local language. I mean, foreign language, of course, talking. You see? I hope you understand. Generally, if you're talking about the language 1, definitely, you see, I mean, L1 you call it. So, the process is almost the same. How did you acquire Urdu, for example? If I ask you a question, how did you acquire Punjabi or Saraiki or Sindhi, right? Pashto, in fact. So, whatever your first language is. So, what did you do, my dear students? Yeah, you listen to your parents. Yes, you listen to your siblings, meaning your brothers and sisters, right? What did you do? You listen to your siblings. I mean, who are siblings? Your brothers and sisters. You listen to them, fine, and then you, of course, yeah, initially you listened, right? Again, I would refer to total physical response method, right, by James Asher. So here, listen, and then you try to speak, my dear students. See, now see, you then after speaking, a time comes, you start reading as well. You start recognizing letters, fine, and then a time came, you started writing in that language. Is that clear? So this is the natural process, fine. And again, now we are following almost the same process for learning a second language, right? 4 skills are there. You see, the way you acquired L1. So we are in fact learning L2, and we focus on the 4 skills. Fine, with skills, mean listening, reading, writing and speaking. And these days, what are we doing? We are exploring these 4 skills. Fine. So today we are going to start principles for teaching speaking. In fact, let's start, my dear students. Ready for it? Can you guess what could be the principles for teaching speaking? An idea? Yes? Alright. So first principle, my dear student, what is it? That beware of differences between second language and foreign language learning context. I hope you understand. You see, this is the point that you need to be careful, right? Being teacher of speaking skills, the principle is we need to know the difference between second language and foreign language learning context. I told you initially, in fact, the course is teaching of English as a foreign language. So here the principle says, for example, right, the principle says, the first principle for teaching speaking, the principle is, yes, we need to know, we need to consider, we need to be aware, right? Aware of what? Foreign language context or the second language context. Now what is this context, my dear students? You see, very simple. Here we are learning English, so it's a foreign language for us. Your question may be, why it is foreign language here? Because we don't have environment for speaking this language. I hope you understand. Once you go out of the class, you talk in Urdu, for example, or you communicate in Pashto, you communicate in Punjabi or different languages. Fine? So we do not have that environment. This classroom environment where we make you speak people, where we do not let you communicate in any other language, right? So the point is why we ask you, and this time is limited, fine, in 1 hour class or maybe 4 hours in a day, right, may not make that much difference. It doesn't mean that these 4 hours don't make any difference. They do, but not that much difference. So that's why we call it a foreign language. Second language is the context, my dear students, where this language is, is used. For example, if you go to UK or you go to Canada, where this language is spoken by people. So over there you go as an immigrant, you go, as a refugee, fine. So what happens? Over there you have to learn it as a second language. Is that clear? I hope you understand. So this is you need to, the first principle is that you need to be difference between second language and foreign language learning context. I hope things are clear. On the slide you can have a look. A foreign language context is one where the target language is not the language of communication in the society. Like here, English is not the language of communication. Urdu is the language of communication. So here English is a foreign language. Fine, learning English in Pakistan, for example. See that? And then a second language context is one where the target language is the language of communication in the society. If you go to UK and you learn that English, so that would be second language context. Fine. So I hope you are clear about the foreign language context and second language context. I gave you some abbreviations initially. I hope you know this. Fine. So dear students, the second language learner includes, could be refugees, international students or immigrants. I hope you understand. Clear? Fine, good. So this is the first principle for teaching speaking skills. So being teachers, being student of TEFL, when you have to teach this skill or you have to design a course on speaking skills, so my dear students, keep this in mind. That you need to keep in mind what is the context. For example, if a firm asks you to help its employees in speaking skills, so here, right, for you, in fact, this would be a foreign language because it is not the language of communication. I hope you understand. So this is the situation. You have to keep in mind this context. However, if you are in UK, for example, if you are in Canada, over there a firm contacts you, that firm has, immigrants, so they need to improve their language. Over there, the context would be, yes, second language context. I hope you understand. Good, very good, right, students? So this is the first principle. Second is, in fact, my dears, what is that? Give students practice with both fluency and accuracy. Yes, it's a debatable thing, in fact. That what is accuracy, correctness of speech, in fact, right? And then fluency. The question is, what should we do? Should we give priority to fluency? Should we ignore altogether accuracy? Or should we highlight, should we give more time to accuracy and less time to fluency? Or both should go side by side? Is that clear? So that's why, of course, the second principle is that give student practice with both fluency and accuracy. Fine. Both areas are important. However, yes, it is said that initially we need to focus on fluency and accuracy comes later on. This is another viewpoint, of course, right? So this is said, of course, Dr. Romina Kamran is of the view that initially when the speaker tries to say something, so we need not to interrupt him. We let him say, right? So once he will be fluent, accuracy comes automatically. This is one viewpoint, right? So, and some people of the view, yes, we need to in fact focus on accuracy, that the speaker should be accurate, in fact. But the point is that if you want both accuracy and fluency in your learner simultaneously, so the learner would be in trouble. Fine. So what we can do, my dear student, that, well, you see, initially maybe in fact first 2 months you let the speaker say, right? Let the speaker be fluent. So once he achieved that fluency, right, at a certain level, then what you can do, my dear students? Yeah, then you again again properly you can help him in accuracy. So that's what in the speaking, we cannot ignore fluency or we cannot ignore accuracy. So both are important. Fluency, the correctness, fluency is what to extent to which speaker uses the language quickly and what confidently with few hesitations or unnatural pauses. Is that clear? And my dear student, it is never easy to be fluent, right, in another language, in foreign language. Similarly, it is never easy to be accurate in another language. Even, of course, this is the foreign language, talking about your language, in fact. How many of you say that you are fluent in Urdu, right? Or you are accurate in Urdu? I think nobody can claim that. Nobody can claim that. I'll give you an example that, well, a student of class 3, in fact, the point is that, you see, he has done lots of maths, but in class 2, he, right, is unable to know accounting in Urdu, right? That student doesn't know 26, 27, 28 क्या होते हैं. उसको teacher जो है वो, in fact, makes him learn counting in Urdu. अब ये है, why is it so कि हमारी शायद counting उर्दू में वो एक रवाज नहीं रहा, in fact. अब आप, when you talk in Urdu, even then आप जो काउंटिंग है वो गिनती जिसे आप कहते हैं वो उर्दू में ही आप इंग्लिश में ही उसको आप फॉलो कर रहे हैं. उसका नतीजा क्या हुआ कि हमारे बच्चे जो है उनको गिनती याद करनी पड़ रही है कि वो दूसरी का बच्चा है या तीसरी का बच्चा है. सो द पॉइंट इज दैट ही doesn't know what is 26, what is 37, what is 89. I hope you understand. All right. So I was talking about give student practice with both accuracy and fluency. Third principle, my dear students, that what? Provide opportunities to students for speaking. This is very important. Definitely, the simple saying, of course, that as well everybody accepts it, that the more you practice, the better you would be. Right? So, Madam Anjum Babri, of course, I still remember her statement. She taught us TEFL, right, once I was a student, right, in 2000. So, this statement I still remember. She would say that the more you practice, the better you would be. Right? So, here the situation is the same, of course. And that lady, in fact, my teacher, of course, she really provided us opportunities in the class. And that was the class, of course, when there was a shift in paradigm. I still remember. Before that, we had 2 semesters, and there were students who were reluctant to express themselves. But once we were in the 3rd semester, and I really appreciate my madam, of course, that she gave us confidence, right? And in the 3rd semester, you see, we gained that confidence. And we felt that we are doing a good course, in fact, and we felt that this TEFL is important. And then we realized that we are, of course, students of that course TEFL, and we felt that we were learning something. Before that, you see, yes, students were shy in the class and they were not confident because for so many reasons. Is that clear? So, my dear students, that's why opportunities. So I was referring to that. Why it happened in that 3rd semester? Of course, when I talk about my career, my masters, in fact, so before that there were no opportunities. But once we joined that course, so there were opportunities. She made us express ourselves, right? And we did. So it could be, right, the 3rd semester, you see, she gave chance to every student, in fact. In other words, she treated every student equally. And that's why everybody was expressing, everybody was sharing, in fact, his or her views confidently. Fine? Yeah, some students really initially they struggled. But after a week, fortnight, people were really fluent and they were not reluctant at all. Fine. So that's why principle says that opportunities for, right? Provide opportunities to students for speaking. Could be group work, pair work, limit teacher talk. Again, this is important. Very important point is that yes, you are there, you are a teacher, fine, but you need to maximize the class time. This maximization of class time means, my dear student, you need to give time to the students. Fine. You are there, you are a facilitator, right? You help them speak, in fact. But you need to give more time to the students. If you keep on talking, yeah, you are polishing your skills. Fine. But what about those who are there to learn, who are there to speak that language? So being a student, in fact, of this language and of TEFL particularly, because we are student of TEFL. So what we need to do when we are in the class and we are helping our students to improve their speaking skills, so we should provide them opportunities. We should provide them ample opportunities. We should provide them maximum opportunities so that they would come out. They would come out of their shells. They would come out of their nutshells. Fine. We need to give them confidence. Clear, students? Good. Very good. So that was the third principle. First one was, what was that? Yes, give student practice. All right. Before that, provide opportunities. First principle was, should I give back? Yes. Beware. Right? That what is the context? Is it a foreign language context or it is a second language context? Fine, students. Next principle is what? Plan speaking tasks that involve negotiation for meaning. This is important. That speaking is not that, well, you keep on saying. What is speaking, in fact? Yeah, you speak and you make yourself understood, and then again when your communicant responds, you need to, in fact. Is that clear? So it's a two-way traffic. It's a circular communication. Fine? It goes on. So that's why I create opportunities so that student would be able to negotiate. It is not that, well, I say yes, stand up, and you stand up. I just sit down and you sit down. No. If I ask you stand up, you will say, why should I stand up? And I give the reason, because you are sitting on the wrong seat. Is that clear? And then the person would ask, why am I'm sitting on my chair, in fact. And then I should have, no, see the chair, there is a tag on that. The seat has been reserved. And the person says, oh, I see, I'm sorry. Then he asks me, where is my seat? So then I should direct him, okay, fine, go there. I mean, leave first 5 rows, and there's a 6th row, there's a tag for students. I hope you understand. So this is what? Negotiation. Right? So create, in fact. That's why when you, being a student of TEFL, when you have to improve skills of your students, so plan opportunities, right? And speaking task. And here again I would say creative, be creative, in fact. And again, situational task. Again, real-time tasks. Again, authentic tasks. Again, the task which student would enjoy talking. Is that clear? You see, you can take, for example, some students, yes, they love talking about music. Yeah, you can talk about the music, fine. Some students love talking about sports. Yeah, situations. Yeah, example, the World Cup is in, talk about the World Cup. Right? When talking about hockey, yes, hockey is in, talk about the hockey, for example. Is that clear? Olympic games are there, talk about Olympics. So these situations, again, the real-time situations would help. Is that clear? So 4 principles. First of all, you should know language context. Either it is first language or the second language or the foreign language context. Then, see, practice both accuracy and fluency. Third one, opportunities to students for speaking. And the 4th one is plan speaking tasks that involve negotiation for meaning. Fine, students. So next principle is 5th one. What is that? Design classroom activities that involve guidance and practice in both transactional and interactional speaking. Yeah, 2 things are there. Right? Interactional means just you interact. You socialize with people. Right? Interactional. And then transactional. Yeah? Transactions है ना? Transactional. आपको कोई deal transaction करनी पड़ती है. You have to have a transaction, for example. So yes, your activities should be based on that, so that you could see. So design classroom activities that involve guidance and practice in both interactional, when you have to socialize with people, for example, right? And also transactional activities, once you have to have a transaction, for example. I hope you understand. You went to a grocery shop and you purchased some grocery items, fine, and you paid the bill. Once you came back home, you saw that, well, you paid for 10 items, and whereas you got only, there are 4 items in your bag. Now what to do, in fact? You had to go back, or you had to call him and give the situation that this was the time, and I went to your store and I purchased these items and I paid this much bill and I have receipt with me, whereas once I reached my home, I could not find the last item. There were only 4 items in my bag. Is that clear? Fine. So this is what more transactional, right? That there was a transaction was done, and or you are in a market, you are buying something, so bargaining, in fact. Fine. You want to buy a tie, you want to buy a suit for you, or you want to buy anything, so you ask for the discount. And again, you have to have language, yes, to bargain with the seller. Fine. Again, your bargaining skills, your buying skills. Is that clear? Because seller tries to use his selling skills, right? Again, you would try to convince the seller that, well, this is the situation, and you see, and you have to have arguments so that you can convince the seller, then he would give you maximum discount. Is that clear, students? So that is what interactional speech is: communication with someone for social purpose, right? It includes what? Both establishing and maintaining social social relationship. It is Eid, right, or Christmas, whatever occasion is, you have to greet people, in fact, right? And that is what mean interactional speech. So your activities should incorporate what? Interactional context as well, interactional situations, and also transactional situations. You are at the airport, for example, fine, you are at a agent, fine. So wherever you are, you have to. So being TEFL student, being teacher of a foreign language, yeah, your activities should be based on that. I hope you understand. So that your learner would improve their speaking both interactionally and transactionally. Is that clear? Fine. Do you understand? Fine. All right. Good, students. So these are what the principles of what? Yes, principles for teaching speaking skills. I just gave you 5 principles, right? Who would give me the 5 principles? First one, beware of which context? Foreign language context or second language context. What is the difference? A foreign language context in which the language of communication is not the target language, like in Pakistan, you see. And then second is second language context in which that language of communication is there. The target language is being spoken there, in fact. So this one is second, my dear student. What is second? You see, if I show you that slide again, come here. That practice, of course, both accuracy and fluency. Third, opportunities for speaking. And next one, planned speaking, tasks that involve negotiation, that involve, fine, persuasion, fine, that involve, sometimes you have to mediation, in fact, right? So all these things. And then last one is design activities that involve guidance and practice both transactional or interaction. I hope you're clear. Fine? Okay, these were the 5 principles of teaching speaking. Clear? Fine. All right. So classroom activities or techniques, my dear students. All right. Classroom techniques and tasks. Being, of course, teacher of this skill, what techniques, what tasks can be used in the class? So before I discuss, if I ask you, what would you do? Because now you have done methods, right? You have, in fact, talked about all the methods of that book by Larson. So, do you have an idea? Yes, role plays. Okay, good. Anything else? Interviews. Very good. All right. You can have mock interviews in the class. Very good. What else can you do? What else can you do? Yes, you can create a situation, all right, where a student acts like a state secretary. Very good. Yes, a good idea. A creative idea. What else can you do? All right. For example, a news reporter comes to you and he interviews you. All right, fine. How to face a media person? Very good. This can be a situation, yeah. You are very creative people. What else can you do? What else can you do? If a television channel reporter calls you and you have to talk about that. All right, fine, very good, very good. All right. What else? Think again. All right. Supposing an unforeseen situation, God forbid, takes place and you are nearby and any, of course, person needs first-hand information. Again, you have to give the information. Whatever you have seen, for example, right? So, very good. You're all creative people. Fine? So, this is what you have to keep in mind. That you have to be innovative. Being TEFL student, you have to be creative. Fine? So that you can, yes, make your class really, really fun, really, really enjoyable for the students. And in this way, you know that when anxiety level is low, learning would be more. When there is no stress, learning would be more. If there is a stress, yes, learning would not be that much. Fine? So what we do, my dear students, yeah, we try our level best to make situations, yes, suitable for our students, right? What? Being congenial for our students so that they would be able to learn this language. Fine? There would not be any stress on the student. Fine? They would be free of all psychological barriers. Only then they would enjoy this language. I hope you understand. बात समझ आ रही है? Okay, बड़ा आसान सी बातें कर रहे हैं हम. मुश्किल बात तो कोई नहीं कर रहे हम. Yes? Fine. Good. So, move on to classroom technique. आप मुझे अच्छी बातें बताइए. You gave me very good techniques, right? We can do that in fact. आप लोग creative हैं. You have potential. Fine? Okay. Good. Good. So, my dear student, what techniques we can use in the class is what information gap. Now, what is information gap? There is a gap between information. Right? What does it mean? All right. Very simple. One person knows more than the others. Right? Than the other, for example. There are two persons. One knows more than the other does. Yeah. Like an example, teacher and student, for example. Yeah. Teacher is a knowledge provider. Which method was there? Think. And the student, yes, the teacher provides knowledge. Teacher was authority and the student, yeah, he just is there to receive. Fine? So, what is it? Information gap. One person knows more than the other. So, in this case, what can we do? Right? Yeah, of course, for example, two students are there. You can create a situation where they would exchange information. For example, right, there are two students and they are looking for, right, they're looking for a university to get admission there. So one student is already in ComStats Virtual, for example. He has done 2 semesters, fine, and there is another student who is looking for an university like this. So now there is an information gap, right? The one doesn't know anything about ComStats Virtual and the other, yes, he knows because he is the student of this campus. He is students of ComStats Virtual. So he knows more than the other. So what he does, they both meet together and they exchange information. I hope you understand. Information gap. So this can be, you can design an activity where one student knows more than the other. Very simple. Or, for example, a teacher and a student, possible, for example, you can say that the teacher knows more than the student does. So again, there is a communication, information gap activity can be designed. Again, mind you, communication gap and the information gap, they are two different things. Communication gap is there for some psychological reasons. But here mean information makes a difference. Over this, you could say psychology, in fact. Psychological factors make the difference. Maybe a person is a high official, so a junior, in fact, he has some stress, the fear. How to talk to the senior, in fact, that the pressure is there, of course, so that can be psychological barrier. Here, information gap. So jigsaw activities, jigsaw, what is it, my students? What? Puzzles, right? Different activities can be designed. For example, different stories. Remember that? You can give them different story steps and ask them to, yes, join, of course, and complete the story. Simple. I hope you understand. So this could be, in fact, jigsaw. You can use that, of course, in your classroom activities, and it really works. Puzzles, for example. Newspaper can help you in this way. You can use newspaper as an authentic material, right? So jigsaw activities really again improve what? Creativity of the students. They try to be creative, and again they try to figure out things. They try to find out things. I hope you understand. Yeah, this is what we do. So my dear students, yes, jigsaw activities can be used. Puzzles can be given to students, and you ask them to, of course, find out, in fact, sort out the problem. Fine. So this can be a useful activity, my dear students. So it can be bidirectional, it can be multi-directional, in fact. A jigsaw can be a unidirectional, of course, or it can move on. Find out, we have to reach there, what to do, right? Or, for example, there's also, maybe you have had opportunity to go to ISSB. Military planning was there, in fact, you know. Sometimes they give you a situation and ask you to do that. So, I mean, this is the border, these are the ways, and they give you terms and conditions and ask you to reach there. Again, right? You have to plan as well. I hope you understand. And you have to give that planning to others. So this activity can be designed, and they are effective because students, I mean, yes, love doing all these things. Again, the teacher role is also important, how he explains those activities. I hope you understand. So first, information gap, you can design activities, and then jigsaw activities, right? Puzzles. Read more about these things. In the text you will find much information. So again, there's you can have a look. Tango sitting. What is tango sitting, my dear students? For example, two students, yes, sit in this way. Their shoulders are touching. But once, of course, you see, one student is seeing this side, other is on the other side, of course. They cannot see each other. So in fact, the one student, in fact, somebody is drawing in front of him. They cannot see each other, just they have to tell other that what is being drawn by the person. If I am here and student is next to me, he looks on that side, of course. We are looking at the opposite side. Fine. So what happened? This is tango sitting or tango standing also. If somebody sits here and he looks that side, of course, we are looking at the opposite sides. So whatever is drawn there, I can't see here. Whatever is drawn here, I can't see that. Fine. So that's why he would tell me what is being done there, and I would tell him what is being done there. Is that clear? You understand? What are these? These are classroom what? Techniques. Yeah, you can do that for speaking and many others, of course. Many others. Like you mentioned, interviewing skills. Yeah, you can have mock interviews. Again, it has many purposes, of course. That mock interviews, of course, are multi-purpose activity. Why? Because you help students speak. Fine. And also, my dear students, you help them prepare for their job interviews. It's a really, really successful activity if you have students, in fact, of course, mock interviews in the class, so they would do very well in the interview. And of course, as a tip for you, that whenever you go for an interview, yes, have your friend to interview you and take that interview, fine, have that mock activity, and you will feel the difference in the interview. You will not be scared, you will not be worried then. But if you do it for the first time, yes, definitely, of course, when you do an activity for the first time, you face some problem. But if you practice, if you rehearse before going for the activity, so you enjoy it and you see it. You just do it and you will see the difference. I hope you understand. So just try it, my dear students. So this would help you. So interviewing in the class, yes, it helps your speaker. Fine, they improve their speaking, and also it helps them for their career. Once they would be looking for job, and this activity, this mock interviews would definitely help them. And you can change the roles. I mean, initially one student would be the interviewer, other would be interviewee, and then the interviewee becomes interviewer. So the role changes, in fact. Or you can have a panel interview. Yes, very important. You can ask, there are 5 people, they are in the panel, and there is one interviewee. Again, it's not easy to face a panel, but once you face that mock interview, you face that panel, right, in a mock interview, so you will see that. Fine, students. So just practice it. Fine. Before going for an interview, yes, have this activity and you will see the difference. Fine, my dear students. Clear? This is what course means. Different activities again. You can think of as many activities as you can, but the purpose should be to help students communicate, speak in fact. Fine? Alright. Other of course, role plays are there. Very good. Excellent activities for speaking in the relatively safe environment of the classroom. Yes, of course, the role plays are there. Teacher, student in fact, right? Or student, teacher in fact. Student in fact. If it is a co-ed system, of course, a girl and a boy, they can have a discussion in fact. So role plays again, because you know we have different roles. We are fathers, we are in fact, of course, we are teachers, you are in fact brothers and sisters. Of course, we have roles. So definitely once you have that role in front of your class and you act out that role, again, maybe if you have that skills, which skills? Maybe you have, of course, that abilities to act. And many students, in fact, once they come for the language class, so they landed in a drama, for example. So again, once the teachers, in fact, in the language class, nominate them for some role play, so they realize that they can act out. They have this acting attitude, in fact. So, and then they apply for, and yes, they are in dramas, of course. I know many of my students, they were in MBA, for example, and they were, in fact, doing this a master's in business administration, but somehow they got a chance and now they are in dramas, for example. Clear? So role plays. Fine. Another very good activity for speaking. Then simulations, my dear student. What is simulation, by the way? Are more elaborate. Some you make simulate people, in fact, right? So I mean, whatever activity is, you perform that activity. Maybe, for example, you bring, if your students are business students, you can bring a product, and you, first of all, if you are a teacher, you try to sell it as a model, and then you may ask the students to sell this product. So there is a product in their hand, and what they would do, they have to use the language to sell the product. In that language, yes, they would have what? Features of that language. They would incorporate their marketing skills, they would incorporate their advertising skills, they would incorporate their persuasive skills, they would incorporate their, yes, above all, language skills. Fine? So they will be talking. And if a customer wants to buy, again, people would volunteer to buy that product. Again, there would be a transactional talk. Clear? So, once you give this activity, they would improve their presentation skills also. And then the learner, once they would buy, again they would improve their buying skills. Fine, students? Clear? So, you have a slide, for example. In a language class about the grocery store, a teacher might bring in products for the students to buy. And you can see that, in fact. So, role plays are also there. Simulations are also there. I hope you understand. So, first of all, yes, role plays. Then, simulations. And my dear students, what else? We go back, information gap. And then, jigsaw activities. Okay, so again, another project, task-based language teaching. What is that, my dear students? TBLT. Give students tasks. So here is again, talking about the speaking, you have contact assignments. What are these? Contact assignments. Well, students, so contact assignments is another activity that you can use in the class. It's very simple, that involves sending students out of the class with a stated purpose to talk to people in the target language. You can send a student to a bank, right? And you can give them a form that, well, you need information on an account opening, for example. Right? And you have to talk in English. Now it is what? Contact assignments. Or you can send student to for example, a travel agent to buy a ticket, to reserve seat, for example. Exactly. Or if you cannot send them off the class, yeah, you can see, maybe these days you have cell numbers, of course, you have mobile with you. So make one student as a travel agent and second as a customer. So travel agent calls and the customer calls and the travel agent replies. I hope you understand. Contract assignment can be an activity, of course. Again, very important, speaking in the class. These were, my dear students. Before that, we talk about activities, classroom activities and tasks, in fact. So here we are now, that speaking in the class. Fine, my dear students. So, talking about that, how speaking in the class, what is it? See, so beware of unequal power discourse. What does it mean? It means that, well, of course, that you see, sometimes you being teacher take more time. Fine, and the students do not get time. So you need to be careful. If you get more time and the students don't get time, there is unequal power discourse. Right? Again, there is the concept of maximize the class timings. It means give more time to the students. I hope you understand. Clear? This is called beware of unequal power discourse. That if you keep on talking being teacher and the students don't talk, again, it is not justified. They need to talk more. Fine? Because they are there to learn the language. You are there to facilitate them. You are there to advise them. You are there to help them out. I hope you understand. Alright. So now we are going to start. This one, my dear student, was for the speaking skills, in fact. Right? Today we are going to start another skill. But what is that? Reading skill. So with this, we finished this listening skill. Still a lot has to be done. You can read other sources as well. So when I move on to another skill, that is speaking, of course, by Neil Anderson, and he is Brigham Young University, USA. Can I tell you, the book you are following is what? Amalgamation. Right? The book has been compiled, fine, by taking, in fact, of course, research work from different experts, right? So this reading, in fact, we have David Lunan has taken from Neil Anderson. Why he has taken that? Because he found that Neil's work on reading is excellent. So that's why I mention it, that listening skill by Al Jensen and now speaking by Neil Anderson. Fine. What do you know about reading, by the way? To read? Okay, fine. To read, to lead? Fine. Alright. So, reading, simple, seeing. Seeing what? Words, letters. Alright. So, dear students, yes, what is reading? Fluent process of readers combining information from a text and their background knowledge to build meaning. Again, mind you, it is not that the text gives you meaning in a reading. When you read, text does not give you meaning. How do you get meaning? Again, you combine your background knowledge. I hope you understand. So you combine, the meaning that you get, the meaning that you in fact infer, that you conceive, how? From the text and your own background knowledge, your own schema, in fact. Clear? So, simple. I repeat for you, it's a fluent process, fluency. Fine? Fluency in reading. We will see what is fluent reading later on. Fine? If a person can read at an average speed with proper comprehension, is a fluent reader. So, reading is a fluent process of what? Readers combining information from a text and their background knowledge to build meaning. The goal of reading is comprehension. Yes, comprehension. Again, I would say good readers are good leaders. So, what is the goal? Comprehension. Comprehension means to understand. Right? That is the goal. Now, what is strategic reading? Maybe you must have heard the term strategic management. Here we have strategic reading, in fact. So, there's a definition. Ability of a reader to use a wide variety of reading strategies to accomplish a purpose for reading. Well, students, so what is reading now? Talking about strategic reading. You know the word strategy. So we have strategic reading, ability of a reader to use a wide variety of reading strategies to accomplish a purpose for reading. That is strategic reading. Right? Think of it. What does it mean? All right. Good readers know what to do when they encounter difficulties. Who are the good reader? While reading, when they find some problems, they struggle, so they in fact know what to do. Should they stop reading then? Or should they ask question to the writer once they struggle? Who are the good readers? And fluent reading, I told you earlier, is the ability of a reader to read at an appropriate rate with adequate comprehension, with enough comprehension. If you are not a very slow reader, if you read with an average speed and you comprehend, you are a fluent reader. And again, now you will find out how many of you are fluent reader. Some of you are reader only. Generally, if you see, there are many people who read but they cannot comprehend. And there are people who are fluent readers because they read and they keep on comprehending. And again, how can they do that? By continuous reading. Again, the more they read, the better you would be. In fact, so dear students, again, reading, meaning does not rest in the reader, nor does it rest in the text. Where is it? The reader's background knowledge integrates with the text to create the meaning. This is important. Fine. The meaning is not with the reader only. It is not with the text only. Where it is? It is, yes, both coordinate. Mean coordination between reader's background and the text. I hope you understand. This is what the meaning that you get. So, meaning is inferred. We get the meaning from what? Combining both the text and the background of the what? The reader. The text, the reader, fluency and strategies combined together define the act of reading. This is the final definition. I gave it in red. What is it? I tell you, the text 1, the reader 2, then fluency and strategies combined together define the act of reading. So, teaching reading has at least two aspects. One, it can refer to teaching learners who are learning to read for the very first time. Right? Beginners. I mean, helping those who are in fact learning to read for the first time. And second, teaching readers refer, in fact, teaching reading refers to teaching learning, right, who already have reading skills in their first language. Like generally, of course, when we teach language in our countries, of course, definitely, we fall in the second category, in fact. Generally, readers, in fact, they can read in Urdu. Fine? In most of the cases, our readers, they can read in Urdu. So that's why this teaching, reading, refers to the teaching, learning, right? To teaching, learning, in fact, people who already have these skills. In the first case, those who are doing it for the first time. Clear? Alright. So here, so this what, my dear students, today we talked about what? We had a discussion on principles for teaching, speaking, and how many principles? Beware of difference between, yes, second language context and the foreign language context. Fine. And second, give students practice with both fluency and accuracy, provide opportunities to students for speaking, and limit teacher's talk, and what? Plan speaking tasks that involve negotiation for meaning. We talked about this. Also, we saw classroom techniques, information gap, right? Then jigsaw activities, tango sitting, role play, simulation, and then at the end we started talking of reading skills. Is that clear? So dear students, in next class we will talk about reading skills more. Fine? We'll talk about the principles for teaching reading. So it's a time to say goodbye. See you in the next class. Till then, it's Allah Hafiz.